We'd like to welcome you to Lake Central School Board meeting for Monday, November 4th, 2019. If you could join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome you to our school board meeting, and also we have a sign-up sheet in the back of the room if you would like to make a comment at the end of our meeting. Moving on to our agenda, our approvals, deletions, additions. Dr. Veracco.
Thank you, Mr. Baxo. You do have some revisions at your workstation under Roman numeral 7, under B1, C1, E2, and FC. And those are all F1C, excuse me. And those additions are in the packets at your workstations.
So moved.
We have a motion from Dr. Malco.
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Suze. Any comments or questions regarding those approvals, deletions, or additions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to our correspondence. Is there any correspondence this evening?
There is none.
Thank you. Moving on to our liaison committee updates, and I would like to start with Mr. Marshall.
Thank you. In terms of personnel interview committee, we have nothing to report. We had no activity recently. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Malco?
Yes, as regards to the Lake Central Education Foundation, as we all remember, just at our last meeting, we gave out grants to several of our teachers, so we will be moving forward with our next round in the very near future. Legislative, I believe that I noticed it's on, again, under Dr. Bracco's section, and we'll talk more about the letters that we would like to send to our legislators and to keep them informed as to what's going on with public education and the funding and the lack of funding.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Suze?
The only thing I have is Ghouls at the School. It was a success. Thank you for everybody who came out and supported us on that fundraiser.
Could I add something to Dollars for Scholars? It occurred to me after you spoke last meeting, Mrs. Suze, that there is a career component of Dollars for Scholars. I can't see you. But I heard you mention that, and I would love to hear more about that. I would imagine everyone else would, because I remember Mr. Suze talking about adding that component. So maybe in the future,
Sure.
if we could get more information on what's going on with the career component,
Absolutely.
that'd be great.
And that would be probably in conjunction with Mr. Ed Beck. So.
That'd be great.
Great.
All right. Thank you. And Dyer Parks Department and Dyer Redevelopment Committee will be meeting later this week, so I'll have a report at our next meeting. Moving on to our official school board business topics, our consent agenda. Again, Dr. Veracco.
Thank you again. Seek board approval for the minutes from our work session on October 21st, our executive session on October 21st, and our regular board meeting on October 21st. And then also seek board approval for the claims, payroll, and extracurricular expenditures that were included in your packets.
Move to approve.
We have a motion from Mr. Marshall
Second.
and a second from Ms. Suze. Any comments or questions regarding the consent agenda? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Jeannie says no public comments.
We have no public comments at this time. And we'll move on tonight to our official school board business topics, our regular agenda. Dr. Veracco.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Excuse me just for a moment. Maybe you can indicate Mrs. Lessentine, our Vice President, is not running late. She will be unable to be here this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. So our regular agenda, Dr. Veracco.
Thank you. And for our first item, we are going to do some recognition of outstanding student performance in athletics this fall. And for our first group, I'd like to invite Mr. Graber and Mr. Stanish from Clark forward with their coaches. And if we could reassemble in front.
Our team this year did an outstanding job. The 2019-20 Clark River football team finished the season undefeated as conference champs. The team outscored their opponents, listen to this one, 272 to 64 for the entire season. This is their second conference championship in a row, so I'll have Mr. Putman introduce the kids.
So, outstanding group of kids, great athletes, even better kids in the classroom, so I'm really proud of these kids. My coach, if you can come down. As far as the certificates, there was a little bit of a mix-up. We got certificates for the Clark kids, but not for the River kids, so what I'm going to do is pull off on giving those certificates out until we get everything printed up. Jeremiah Kuipers. Lila Davis. Cam Durant. Ryan Sweetness. Trevor Smith. Gianni DiPichetto. John Lopez. James Graham. Tyler Holder. Jack Yankton. Sean Oster. Mario Brooks. Brandon Ostrom. Nate Hall. James Schaefer. Tim Vaughn. Angel Torres. Mario Orwetta. Nick Rocky. Michael Navarrete. Benjamin Herrera. Jonathan McDavid. Nolan Dwyer. Jeffrey Lucas. Jimmy Johnson. Tyler Beach. Grant Lesniewski. Owen Henry. Nathan Behrens. Scott Stewart. Braden Schneider. Dylan Knisevich. Vince Cronin. Shane Adams. Jonathan Ross. Olin Zott. Anthony Rodriguez. Logan Amon. Corey Weiler. Hayden Jones. Vince Carlano. Austin Thornton. Rocco Bartolomeo. Hayden Gerner. Logan Novovitz. And Christian Gonzalez. Aaron, for all your support this season. The athletes and the parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Clark. Moving on to Grimmer, 8th grade volleyball, and Mr. Alicia.
Our 8th grade girls were Lake Middle School Athletic Conference champions today. Ms. Rail has a huge speech prepared.
The girls ended up losing one game in our conference, so we were 5-1. So we ended up sharing coaching at the kids who were ranked this year. So we ended up coming in 4th place in our conference tournament. So I'm really proud of the girls. Out of the 12 years that I've coached volleyball, this is the best group of girls that I've had athletically, academically, and one of the best in field
cross country, Mr. Newton, Mr. Langlois, Mrs. Gaines, and anybody else affiliated with cross country.
Hey, it's my honor tonight to recognize our cross-country teams. Our boys and girls teams had a terrific season. They were conference champions for the third year in a row, undefeated. So a very nice run that they put together. First coach I'd like to recognize on the girls' side, Chris Gaines. In addition to winning conference during the Rensselaer Cross Country Invitational, Mrs. Gaines won the Outstanding Coach Award for mid-school girls. There were 34 teams that competed. The coach with the lowest score as a result of the races wins the award. And there were 3 races, one for each grade level. And she won that award this year, and she also won back in 2017.
The girls, like Mr. Newton said, went undefeated. They have gone undefeated in 2017, 18, and 19. They actually won every invitational they entered. They entered the Rensselaer Invitational, took first place. They took first place the following week at Willow Creek. They took first place the third week in a row at the Culver Invitational, which was out of 38 teams. And then they finished off the season at the Indiana State Middle School Championship Invitational in Carmel, where they went up against nearly 40 teams. In the state of Indiana, they took 6th place in the varsity division, and in the JV race 3rd place. And we finished off the season the following week at the cross country invitational for our conference, where they took first place in both the varsity and the JV meet. And that all said and totaled, when I totaled up the number of medals that they won at all of these various invitationals all season long, it was over 50 medals. They were a spectacularly talented group of young ladies, and considering that our high school team finished at the state this past weekend, Taylor's going to send them a lot of really talented young ladies. So.
Our other girls coach, Denise Kelly, could not be here tonight. On the boys' side, we have our 2 coaches, Mark Langlois and Dave Sidney.
Thank you. The boys also conference champions this year. This is the 3rd year in a row we've done that. Have not lost a meet in 4 years. And would really like to thank all the parents. We have like both squads, boys and the girls. It was something to try to figure out how to hold practices with well over 100 kids.
I think I had 58 young ladies, and you had
49.
49.
And this is the 3rd year in a row. And I'd really like to thank the school administration and LC administration for appointing temporary emergency coaches the last 3 years and being very, very supportive of our running community. So thank you very much.
All right, thanks, coaches. All right, well, that concludes our recognitions for this evening. We're going to continue with our regular board meeting here in just a minute, but if you need to get home to do homework or watch TV or whatever, this is a good time to depart. Thank you for coming.
The Exodus.
Number because of the numbers.
Yeah, baby.
I don't think so.
So Larry,
No, that's what I told Larry when I,
cross country not there?
I don't think so.
Guys,
Because it's 100 kids, and I guess they didn't want to come. I don't know.
that's what we figured.
they said they'd pass out their certificates at school.
Well, that clears them out. That clears them out.
Oh, yeah.
I think what's left is administrators.
Chair for Rick.
Does he have something on the agenda?
No document.
And then there were three.
I know. Who's over here?
It's Angie. Angie.
Phrase there in on the search IP address. Oh,
Oh, the minutes.
Yeah, the minutes. I don't.
All right, we'll continue with our regular agenda. Dr. Vrocko?
Thank you, Mr. Baxo. My next item is to seek school board approval of the policies that we reviewed at our last work session. Due to the executive session tonight, we did not have policies, but it is my intention to get back to having a work session in 2 weeks to continue the review of those policies. I do seek the board's approval of A through L in their entirety.
Move to approve.
We have a motion from Ms. Suze, a second from Mr. Marshall. Any comments or questions regarding the school board policies? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. My next item is to seek board approval for administrative raises for the 2019-2020 school year. I'm amending what was posted from 9% salary increase to 7.25%. B stays the same, 1.75% increase to 401A, which is the same as what was given to teachers. Seek board approval.
So moved.
There's a motion from Dr. Malkow, and I will second that motion. Any comments or questions? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And on behalf of my administrators, we thank you for that approval. My next item is to seek professional leave request so I may attend the annual superintendent's meeting in Indianapolis the evening of December 4th through the afternoon of December 6th.
So, okay. Second.
We got a motion from Mr. Marshall, second from Dr. Malkow. Any comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And my last item this evening is to just review with the board. We've been working on some letters to some of our legislative leaders down in Indianapolis. We have to decide which of these topics we want to send to which leader. I think we should send one to the governor. I think we should send one to the leader of the House Education Committee, one to the leader of the Republican, they're all leaders on the Republican side, I guess. On the Senate side, Education Committee. We've been working on the vouchers, school choice scholarship piece, so continue to pass that back and forth and amend, and we'll end up with something here in a couple of weeks that we're all comfortable with, as well as the virtual charter school piece. Those things, we have drafts floating around out there, and we'll continue to work on the teacher shortage article and an unfunded mandates piece. And then, I think if we can get these completed and sent to not only these General Assembly leaders and the governor, but also our elected officials locally, which would be Representative Chung, Representative Beck, Senators Niemeyer and Mervan, I think we'll copy them on it too. But I'd open it up to any other ideas that board members have for topics. And remember, I think it's important that we try to keep these things concise and not meander into too many different topics, because I've been told by the representatives who have spoken to me that if it's more than a page, it might not all be digested. So I think it's important that we do that. But are there any other ideas from the board on those topics or any other topics that we can review.
Dr. Milko?
I really liked the information that Chris Chung gave us at the meeting at Dyer Library, and it came from the state superintendent, and it was reflected on the number of increase in private schools, charter schools, virtual schools, and the decrease in the public schools. I found that to be very interesting in the state. Then the Jennifer McCormick data. The other one I thought that we might want to mention is when we talk about the lack of respect that educators have received, and it was really exemplified big time when they decided that the state superintendent could be appointed with no special licensing required. That's, yeah. And then the third one, I thought of it, it may be too deep to go into, but the dark money concept, the way that the powers that be decided that they wanted to destroy public ed. They said it was broken. So how do we fix it? We privatize. So maybe some discussion about that. Maybe not. That might be a bit deep for them, but for a lot of people. But
I think we could find some research on concerns about having an appointed state superintendent, and that could be a fifth topic for sure.
That's a really good topic. I agree with Dr. Malcolm on that one as well. Okay.
those were just the ideas I came up with.
Any others? Ms. Marshall? No?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to our Director of Human Resources, Terry Mucha.
Thank you very much. We're recommending the following certified appointments, transfers, and classified appointments, and also just bring to your attention one retirement, Doug McAllister, with 15 years of service here at LC, but 31 and a half years total to the service of education.
So moved.
There's a motion from Dr. Malco,
Second?
a second from Ms. Suze. Any comments or questions regarding those personnel recommendations? All right, hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. I also want to bring to everyone's attention, I know we put the Veterans Day program in your packets. All 10 of our schools have some outstanding programs that are ready for you to celebrate the sacrifices and service of our veterans. We hope to have a good turnout to thank them for all the things that they've done for our country. So we'd love to see everybody there. I know the schools have worked very hard to have a good program for our vets, and we would like to see a lot of people there.
Definitely, definitely. I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. The programs at Lake Central High School, at Protzman, I've been there, Kaler, they're great programs. They put on a
Very
really,
touching.
really fine.
And Bibbage.
And Bibbage as well.
You
Yes.
can't forget that.
Okay, and
Bibbage,
all
I
of
have been
them.
there as well. They're very good. Well, thank you. Thank you, Terry. Moving on to our Director of Primary Education, Teresa Schoen.
Thank you. My first item is to seek your approval of the professional leave requests that were in your packet and also revisions that were at your workstation.
So moved.
The motion from Mr. Marshall. I guess I'll second that motion. Any comments or questions regarding the professional leave requests? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. My second item is to seek your approval of the field trip requests, which were included in your packet.
Also moved to approve.
A motion from Mr. Marshall,
Second?
second from Ms. Suze. Any comments or questions regarding those field trip requests?
I had the concern of seeing the little kindergartners go to Chicago, but I do remember that there's usually one adult for every child, so
We are sending a lot of adults.
I feel better knowing that, so thank you.
Okay, great. Let's take a vote on that. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And my final item is just to share some information about finalizing our 2018-19 teacher evaluations. I know the board is more than aware of the controversy surrounding the IVERN scores from the 2018-19 testing, and also the effect that the scores would have on teacher ratings and school letter grades. There was a lot of discussion out there and some comments by legislators about passing some old harmless legislation, but really until recently, we didn't really have any guidance. There was nothing concrete, just a lot of talk out there. So corporations were kind of stuck, just waiting for
25th, the DOE did send a memo out stating that the legislature intended to enact hold harmless legislation in January of 2020, and then gave corporations guidance on how to use those results. What they told us is that we could use either the 17, 18, or 18, 19 school letter grades, and we could also use those 2 years of performance results. So acting on this guidance, we decided to use the best of the 2 years, the school letter grades, so whichever one is best, and then we are looking at each teacher individually that has growth model data and using the best score for that teacher. So we feel that using the best of the 2 years will give teachers the most favorable final grading.
Best of the 2 years, makes sense.
Sounds great. Did you say it was over a 3-year period or 2?
2.
2? Okay. Thank you. Any comments? Any questions?
No. I'm glad they finally made a statement and gave you some solid direction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so now we can finish that up before the 1920 school year is over.
And when are those due to the state?
We have until, I don't know the exact date, but it's a November deadline that we have to have the final ratings to the state. But it's late in November, so we have plenty of time.
Good.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Moving on to our Director of Secondary Education, Sara Castaneda.
Thank you. For my first item, I'm going to piggyback on where Teresa left off at and talk a little bit about IGM scores and the school letter grades. Teachers for math and language arts in grades 4 through 8 are the ones that receive individual growth measure scores from the state, where they're tracking their performance from year to year. Of course, this year we were concerned because they're trying to determine growth from iStep to iLearn. And then, of course, once the iLearn results came out and were so significantly low compared to previous years, we were even more concerned. It would be wonderful if they would look at this pattern of having low performance on the state assessment, especially in years when they introduce a new test or a new version of that test, and possibly rethink the millions of dollars that are being spent on state assessments. But in the meantime, as Teresa mentioned, they are going to put the hold harmless into effect for us, which we are very thankful for. I just wanted to give the board a breakdown on the IGM scores. We have 120 teachers across the district who receive IGM scores from the state. 26 of those teachers actually had better scores in 2017-18, the previous year, so they're going to use that score for their evaluation. 28 teachers had IGM scores that were better for this school year, despite the transition, which was great to see. We had pretty good growth in some areas for some students, though we're still, like I said, a little foggy about how they calculated growth from one test to another. 16 teachers were either first-year teachers or had been a teacher of a grade level that did not have growth model data. So let's say a teacher switched from 3rd to 4th grade, they wouldn't have a previous year, so they have to use the score that they received from the iLearn test. And then 50 of our teachers had their IGM scores stay the same. What we've done since they started giving out IGM scores 6 years ago is any teacher who receives a 1, the ratings go anywhere from 1 to 4th, 1 being the lowest, I automatically pull their roster for accountability and meet with them to go through it. Sometimes we have students who during the year may qualify for special services and get moved between teachers. Sometimes we have students that move in and out of the district. And so we want to make sure as they're here for the required number of days before they're getting tagged to that teacher for accountability purposes. And then if for some reason we do change their roster, there's a formula full of standard deviation and lots of other fun things that we can go ahead and recalculate that and adjust it if need be. So we'll be going through that process in the next couple of weeks. With the school letter grades, I did send them to the board this morning. They were released to schools last week on Friday, November 1st. As Teresa said, they gave these out to the schools so that way they can finish up their teacher evaluations, knowing that the legislature will pass hold harmless in January. I can't really say anything about it, nor can anyone else. But speaking generally, we saw the similar pattern to what I just shared with you for IGM. Some schools stayed the same, went up, some went down, and we'll talk about that more once they lift the embargo. But again, we are very thankful that they did allow us to select the better of the 2 years and protect our teachers that way.
It's great to hear.
Any questions?
Something that has come to my mind is, since Jennifer McCormick was in the superintendent's seat and we had the switch to the iLearn, does anybody know her thoughts about the iLearn and anything about it?
Did anybody talk to her?
Have you heard her speak about it, or?
Yes, so, I mean, her team is the one that supported the transition away from Pearson to AIR as the new vendor. I think that they had the best of intentions, Dr. Charity Flores, who's her director of assessment, in lifting the time requirements so students didn't feel rushed, switching to one testing window so we weren't having to do it 2 times a year, and making it adaptive so we get more precise information about the students. And we did get some very good data on which standards they had shown mastery on, which ones they were approaching mastery on, and which ones they were below. So that is useful data, definitely. I think that they just didn't anticipate with the adaptive nature of the test, that test fatigue that took place. You know, and we had many students who said that they simply kind of just shut down after a little while. They tried their best in the beginning, but, you know, because we'd explained to them it's adaptive, it's going to adjust to you, I think after a certain point, some of them were just looking to be done. And so I don't think she foresaw that, and of course shares the same frustrations that we do.
Does she have thoughts about what to do to improve the situation? Have you heard her speak about that, or?
She has not specifically addressed what the next steps will be. She has been an outstanding superintendent, so I know that she will be working on that, but that guidance hasn't come.
Thank you.
Another thing is she did not speak at ISBO down in Indianapolis either, so she was there, but she didn't speak, so it was hard to get her, even to get her time, you know, because she's pulled in every direction, so it would probably be very difficult to talk to her about something like that.
Okay. I had always just wondered what she was thinking about it. So.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Well, you know they're bound up because of ESSA. They can't just wipe the thing
True.
away. So even if they philosophically disagree with it personally, they're bound by the federal dollars.
And if you look at her personal Twitter account, she has made commentary about the sheer quantity of money, the millions of dollars that we spend on testing. So I think her thought process aligns with ours.
Okay.
But she's trying to work within that.
What is a requirement of ESSA? We have to have some type of standardized test, right?
To measure school accountability.
Grades 3 through 8.
That's it. Then. We can do this.
Well, what's the high school requirement in ESSA, Sarah?
The high school requirement is that you have to have the multiple measures, and so Grad Pathways has been the response to that. So there's still a testing aspect with ACT, SAT, the ASVAB, and all those new components of it. But it's not, they moved away from a single test and we're able to do that with the high school format.
That's nice.
It is.
I mean, it's nice. It's overwhelming, I'm sure, to
Yes,
manage.
overwhelming.
Yeah, the flexibility, though. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. My second request is for the approval of the professional leave request that you received in your packet.
Move to.
Second.
We have a motion for Ms. Suze, a second for Mr. Marshall. Any comments or questions regarding the professional leave request? Hearing none, let's take a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And for my last item, I am seeking your approval for the field trip request as presented.
So moved.
A motion from Dr. Malkow, and I will second that motion. Any comments or questions regarding the field trip request? Only that I'd like to go on the last one.
All right.
Yeah, that one looks pretty interesting.
I'll go too.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right,
Yes.
let's take a vote on it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, thank you, Sarah. Moving on to our Director of Student Services, Becky Gramella.
My first item tonight is just to give you an update on our Special Olympics bowling team. They finished their, well, getting towards the end of their season. So we had 26 bowlers participate this season, and those students ranged in age from 8 to 21. So Special Olympics has a pretty wide range. We had weekly practices, so they practiced one night a week at Stardust and Dyer. We had 9 bowlers advance to our area tournament on Saturday. So we're waiting to hear now of those 9 if any of them will make it onto the state tournament. I want to thank Ms. Karen Brand, who's our coach, and then Kim Masneritz, who's one of the administrative assistants in my office, volunteers her time to help the team. And it's a pretty large undertaking with that many bowlers. So we have a lot of parent support as well. So hopefully we'll have some students make it onto that state tournament, and then we'll bring them up here for some recognition.
That's a definite.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, so once that's done, our basketball program will start up in January. We always will have maybe a slight decrease in players this year because we won't have our Munster students with us, but basketball is always a big sport for us and very exciting. So I'll get that information to the board when we have it. And then my second item is just to seek your approval for the professional leave request that was in addition to the agenda, so it should be at your station.
Move to approve.
We have a motion from Ms. Suze,
Second?
a second from Mr. Marshall. Any comments or questions regarding the professional leave request? All right, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
Moving on to our Director of Facilities, Bill Ledger.
Thank you, Mr. Baxo. I just want to remind the board, tomorrow's Election Day in Indiana, and we will have 3 polling sites throughout the Lake Central schools, one here at the high school, down at the K-Trap room, at Clark Middle School at the gym, and Protzman at the community room. We will have a police officer from St. John PD at Clark and St. John from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m., and we'll also have a Dyer police officers between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. at Protzman as well, and I will be in and out of all 3 polling places throughout the day as well.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
And then, am I correct that next year we'll be on fall break during the big election, correct? Correct.
Is that,
Yeah,
Terry, I
I think
think
it
that's correct,
Yes.
isn't it,
Yeah.
Terry?
Yes, it is.
That is
So
correct.
it'll be that Monday and Tuesday.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Bill. Any other questions? All right, moving on to our Director of Business Services, Rob James.
Thank you, Mr. Baxo. My first item is to seek your approval to award the leasing of our land on the corner of Blaine and 101st. On October 30th, we opened bids, and we had 4 different farmers bid to farm that land. And the highest bidder came in from Carstensen Farms. So I seek the board's approval to award the bid to Carstensen Farms for the $260 per acre for the next 2 years. With the, with the school district having the option for an additional 3rd year.
Okay.
So.
A motion from Mr. Marshall,
Second?
second from Ms. Suze. Any comments or questions regarding the leasing of this vacant land? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. My next item is to seek your approval for the professional leave request presented in your board packet.
Move to approve.
The motion from Ms. Suze, and I will second that motion. Any comments or questions regarding that professional leave request?
I was just wondering where Larville, Indiana is located.
Well, I also had to look on the map because I wasn't sure.
I've never heard of it.
It is about, excuse me, 2 hours straight east on US 30, just past Warsaw, between Warsaw and Fort Wayne.
Almost in Fort Wayne. So I passed it last year, but.
It's 2 hours plus, yeah.
Okay.
I've heard of Whitco, but I'd never heard of the name of the town.
It's rather small.
Oh, this one. Okay, let's take a vote on it. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And then my final item is to seek your approval for the donations that were presented in your board packet.
Move to approve.
We have a motion from Ms. Suze
Second.
and a second from Dr. Malco. Any comments or questions regarding our donations that we've received or given? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. James. We have no public comments this evening, so I'll move on to board comments and consideration of future agenda items. I'll start with Mr. Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. Baxo. At this point, I have no comments this evening.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. Dr. Malco?
Well, it was a very exciting weekend watching the soccer game on IHSAA. It was really cool to see our students do so well, our athletes. And also congrats to our girls and boys cross-country teams. I believe they did well. And I wanted to say to all of you administrators and Rick also, and Sara and Teresa, I am really loving Skyward. I think it's really awesome. Now I'm learning Canvas, and then the other day I learned Clever. So if you're not with somebody involved in school, you know, they're just words. But now that I have 2 little boys involved in school, they mean something to me. So I think they're outstanding. They really can keep you organized if you know they're there and if you use them.
Yeah.
So just pretty nice.
It's really nice,
Yeah, yeah.
All right, thank you. Ms. Suze?
I too just want to say congrats to all the students and teams that went to state. And just a quick shout out to Mr. Augustus does an annual trick or treat so kids can eat, drive. He collected over 60 bags of food to the Northwest Indiana Food Pantry. And Jack Lopez of that Food Driven, when we had those 3 boys, yeah, he went and picked it all up. So
Cool.
Oh, that's great
hopefully
to
it's
hear.
being utilized.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
That's it.
And, yeah, I'll echo those sentiments about our student athletes, you know, the ones that were here tonight and the ones that participated over this weekend at the state level. You know, congratulations to them. Rick, thank you for all the emails and keeping us updated when we're up and down, up and down, up and down, whenever, you know. It's always very helpful to know what's going on, and, you know, especially with our technology, so thank you for those as well. And thank you, administration, for being here this evening as well. All right, moving on to our board calendar of future activities. Dr. Bracco.
I just want to remind everybody again to check your calendars for all those Veterans Day celebrations and try out some different ones, Mr. Baxo, if you keep going to the same ones over and over again. They're all highly entertaining.
I know, I don't go out of Dyer that often.
Okay.
I just stay in Dyer proper. So
And then
I will take you up on that.
we will be back together 2 weeks from this evening. Thank you.
Looking for a motion for adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion from Dr. Malcolm,
Second.
second from Ms. Suze. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
You know, here's my thing.